Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Just Us podcast. And the title speaks for itself. It's myself
just
and Sarah here. And so we welcome everybody. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
And we've enjoyed, I hope we've enjoyed the last couple of episodes
Yeah.
and conversation that we've had
Mm-hmm.
and talking about our stories, talking about marriage a little bit. And today, oh man, we're talking about the kids.
Talking about parenting.
Yep. That's a deep subject right there.
It
It's
is a
hard to
deep
even know where
subject.
to even start. So,
Yeah.
um, I don't even know how to start this today.
Well, I think you should tell everyone how many kids we have, or I can.
Why don't you tell them?
Okay. Um,
5.
we have 5 kids. Yeah, so we've been parenting for 18 years now. We have one that is, our oldest is McKenna, and she is graduating high school this year, which is unbelievable.
Yep, 18 years old.
18 years old, ready to fly the coop. And it's filled with emotions and yet very, very exciting. And then Blake is right behind her. We had him 16 months later.
Yeah, it's almost like having twins.
Almost very similar, pretty much going through almost the same seasons of life at the same time, or it's overlapping. So we get through it with one, like we got through terrible twos with one, and then we went through it with the other right afterwards. So they're right smack dab next to each other. And then we waited a few years before we added Weston to our family. He's 13.
We feel like we have 2 families.
Yes, we do.
We did it in waves. The first
That's
wave,
right.
the first one was the 18-year-old and the 17-year-old, right?
Uh-huh.
And then we had the next wave.
And then we were like, woo!
It's like the second family.
Yeah.
The 3 behind. So
Yes. So
okay.
Weston's 13. And then we have Eli, he's 11, and Cora, who is 8. So yeah, 5 kids ranging in all different ages and stages. So we are hoping to speak to that today, speak to just what we've learned through our parenting journey thus far. We are very far from being done in raising our kids, but we would love to just share today what we've learned along the way. Maybe we can share a little bit about what it's like raising a large family too. I'm sure people are interested to see what that's like and how we do it.
Goodness. Before we jump in though, this is a disclaimer.
Yes, please.
We are not perfect parents.
No.
We don't know what we are doing. No parent really knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Yes.
It's like a big laboratory. We're trying to figure out what works.
Yep. And what works for us doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for everyone.
Yeah, and our
either.
kids are not perfect.
No.
And that's why really a lot of people have asked, why don't you do a parenting series? Why don't you do something on parenting kids? Because I don't want to do that. I mean, I'm in the middle of it. I don't want to do any of that right now because there's so much that we don't want to that we don't know, and then also putting that on our kids right now. They already face enough pressure. There's a lot of I shouldn't say pressure. There's a lot of I would say pressure and also living in a glass house too. Everybody sees what you do when you're a fishbowl. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one as well. Everybody being a pastor's kid can be difficult sometimes. So we try not to draw attention to when it comes to like parenting, and then they observe our kids, and that's just not, so we don't want to do that. So we're not perfect. Our kids are not perfect.
Nope.
We're trying to figure this thing out as we go. So everything we say is not gospel truth, is like we're just trying to figure this thing out as we go.
That's
so
right.
I just felt like I needed to set that disclaimer.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think a good place to start, if you want to start there, is what is it like with 5 kids? A lot of people ask us that all the time.
They
so
do.
Sarah, what is it like with 5 kids?
It's loud. It's chaotic. And it's wonderful all in the same. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
So
What
what
would
you're
you
saying
say?
is it's terrible and fantastic all at the same time, and I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm before you elaborate on that, because I
Yes,
want you
I
to
will
elaborate. Get your
elaborate.
thoughts together
Yes,
on
I'm
that.
I'm working
Okay.
on that.
There's a comedian named Jim Gaffigan,
Uh-huh.
and he's got a bunch of kids, and he always does this bit about having kids, and he's like, I try, and I think he's got 5 as well.
Mhm.
And so he talks about how people ask him what it's like to have so many kids, and he's like, well, pretend that you're drowning in a pool and
Uh-huh.
then someone hands you a baby,
Maybe. Yep.
and that's pretty much what it's like.
Yeah.
Uh, it is complete chaos. I don't think people understand when we say sometimes our schedule is busy.
Mhm.
I don't think people even grasp what that even consists of.
Yeah.
Between school and sports and activities and homework, and their social life too, with being with friends and run them around town,
Yeah.
and birthdays and Christmas, and it's just never ending. It does not stop, and I feel like that's why time flies so much. It's
Mhm.
hard to even believe we have kids that are on the older end of the spectrum here, 17 and 18, because I don't know where time went. So like
Yeah.
we just snapped our fingers and it's gone, because we live at such a frantic pace all the
Mhm.
time, trying to get our kids to where they need to be and give them what they need and take
Yeah.
care of them, that it's hard to keep up at moments.
Yeah. I was thinking about how there's so many times in public where people will run into me and say, "Are they all yours?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yes, they're all mine." And I feel like there's so many times we would be out in public and I feel like a mother goose with all her goslings just around her as we move and navigate through places
Yeah.
because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
Um, and so it has been a learning journey with, and probably with having a large family. The hardest part has been trying to, um, God gives you the ability and the grace and the capacity for each child you have. So, usually when someone comes to me and they're like, my husband and I are thinking about adding another baby to our family, but we just don't know. Like we already feel like our hands are full. And my advice to them every single time is if you feel like that's the direction you want to go, you'll never regret it. And you never do. And I think each child we've added into our family, whether it was something that was more planned or if it was a surprise, they have been a tremendous gift every single time to
Yeah.
our family and to our family unit. Um, and so I love, I mean, like we've shared about, we both come from larger families. We knew that we wanted to have a larger family. I think when we originally talked about it, we talked about only having 3 kids.
Yeah.
And here now we have 5.
2
So
bonus.
2 bonus babies. But yeah, we both come from large family and loved being a part of a large family. And I love having it. It does have its challenges because the pace in which we move and trying to provide everything that our kids need, and that's what I was trying to say. The greatest challenge is just trying to provide and be available to each child individually and provide not only their needs physically, but just emotionally and spiritually and mentally, as parents, not neglecting one over another. And seasonally, it looks a little bit different,
Mhm.
but just constantly reevaluating that. I think that would probably be the hardest part of it, because we are so busy and pulled in so many different directions all of the time. Would you agree?
It's definitely that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is hard trying to help each kid. Every kid is different,
Yeah.
not just our kids, but I'm sure your kids as well. Every kid is different. Every
Mhm.
kid has a different need
Yeah.
than the other.
Right. They all have different personalities.
They all have different personalities, and I'm
Uh-huh.
sure we were just talking off camera before we started the podcast about kids, and
Yeah.
Tim's behind the camera right now. And Tim has 2 young kids, and talking about the difference in them. He's got
Uh-huh.
one, his oldest, who wants a lot of hugs before he gets dropped off to school. And he said, and the other one looked him straight in the face and went, whap, slapped him right on the way to school. I mean, that's how my kids are too.
Yep.
They're all different, you know,
Yep.
they all have a different personality, and how you navigate that is really a difficult thing in parenting, and being aware of that and how you navigate those waters. So that's a little bit about that. And I also want to say that if you, the hectic schedule thing we were just talking about, if your house is a mess, guess what? Our house is a mess too.
That's right. Give some people some
I want
freedom
them to
know that, yes,
our house is a mess.
our house is a mess.
It ain't perfect
There's
all the time.
7 head that live in that
Oh
house.
my goodness. If you could even see some of the stuff around our place, you'd be like, what in the world? These people, what in the world?
Can I give just some practical advice for the mamas out there that feel overwhelmed by the house? And this has been a journey for me. It took me a long time to get to a place.
And you're still learning.
And I am still learning that when someone would stop by or come over to the house, and I always felt the need to apologize for the laundry sitting on the couch, or the dishes that were not washed in the sink, or the grimy countertops, or the crumbs on the floor. And I always felt the need to apologize. Like, I'm so sorry that my house is such a mess. And it's taken me a long time to get to a place where I'm like, nope, the Lord just was like, stop apologizing. You know, it's a gift that you have these kids, and that your family, lives here, and it's okay that you live here, and let people see that you're normal too, and that we all have messes at different times. So, one of the things that I've learned through all of that is figure out the spaces that are most important to you, that will keep you sane, and just focus on those spaces. So for me, it's our kitchen, and it's our main living area that we spend all our time in. If those two are vacuumed and cleaned up, and mostly organized, I'm okay.
Yeah.
The rest of it, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
And so I just had to figure that out. And once I figured that out, I'm a lot more peaceful.
Yep. Yeah.
And causing less chaos in the house because I'm frustrated by all the things.
Yeah.
And so maybe that will help somebody today.
Well, you can get caught up in the commotion of the chaos in the home, the way it looks, and you miss out on the gift.
Yep. Of the people that are in the house.
Because there's going to come a moment where that's all gone.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a mess anymore.
And the cleaning and the mess is always going to be there, whether it's 2 of us living in this house or if there's 7 of us living in the house.
But I think that's it's not easy to see that.
Yeah.
Same thing with the chaos of the schedule too. It's well, guess what? When they grow up, you're not going to have anybody to run the practice. You're not going to have no kids in school. It's just going to be a next phase where, you're going to, if they move different places, you got to go to them. And so it's trying to enjoy the journey. And people tell us that all the time that have older adult kids now, which we get advice from them,
which I'm
thankful and I look
for.
to, and there's other people who have older kids that we look up to. And it's like, they tell us all the time, just enjoy the journey.
Yep.
Enjoy every moment of it, because it's going to be gone.
Yep.
And you're going to wish it was still here. So we're trying to do that as well. So
can I shout out a
Please.
few people?
Yep.
Not specifically with names, but for those tuning in, I will say, just in regards to having a large family, even if you don't have a large family, you still have to have a village of people that are going to step up to the plate and help you in different seasons. And so I also want to say that with having a large family, we could not do it.
Yep.
With over the years, we have had so many vital pieces and people that have stepped up to the plate to take our kids to games, to practices, to events, to that have spent time with them, have bought meals for them, that have gone and cheered them on, recorded them in different things because we couldn't be there.
Yeah.
And I am just so thankful for those people in our lives that have done that and have played a vital part in our kids' lives.
And there's been a lot of them over the years. And it's been
them.
seasonal.
It has.
And we appreciate all of them because we couldn't do what we do.
So you need a village.
You got to have a village. Got to have people.
Yep, because we can't do this by ourselves. Yeah. All right.
Where you want to start?
Wherever you want to start.
Go ahead and start.
All right.
Yep. I'll let you start this time.
Okay.
I got a lot of things to say,
You
but
do.
I've always got things to say. You know that.
So thinking about parenting, just to bring it to Scripture, I think this one is a very vital one in our parenting journey and what God has called us to do as parents. Deuteronomy 6:5 says, 5, 6, and 7, I will read. It says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as a symbol on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates." And I just love that in the Old Testament, he's communicating to the Israelite people, but he's not just communicating to a section of people. He's pretty much, empowering parents and families. This is the way that my word is going to go forth to all people. It is through the family. And so our job and responsibility as parents is to take that the love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, and impress that upon our children's hearts. We've got to teach them. We have to lead them. And the best way that we can do that is to lead by example.
Yep.
Because we can say it all that we want, but at the end of the day, what I have learned with our kids is that the way that we live our lives and the example that we set, if I sit down and in the car and I lecture them on something, there might be something that they pick up from that and they're like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that. But overall, what I do and the way that I act and the way that I respond and the way that I live my lives, the way that I interact with people, the time that I spend with the Lord, if that is a priority that I want them to carry on in their lives, putting God first in my life and them seeing me walk that out is going to make a greater impact on them than actually just saying, no, you need to love God. You need to read your Bible. You need to pray. But actually doing it with them and leading by an example in that way. So I think in our parenting journey, keeping that on the forefront of my mind has been so important. And just keeping that as a priority. Okay, what am I communicating through my actions in their lives?
You got to model it. And
more is caught than taught.
Ooh, come on now. That's right. Put that in the e-store.
Okay.
It's amazing to me how many parents don't model it. They want their kids to know it. They want their kids to live that way.
And so they'll put their kids in environments.
Okay, now you don't steal my thought.
Oops, sorry.
But what we do is, I want my kids to love the Lord. I want my kids to know right from wrong. I want my kids to make good decisions. So what we do is instead of us modeling that behavior to them, we'll just take them to church, or we'll just, put them in a Christian school, or we'll put them in an environment where they're going to learn about the Lord. But at the end of the day, yes, they learn about the Lord in church. And if you decide to go private education, that's a great thing, and you're going to learn about the Lord.
And it will make an impact.
Oh, absolutely, 100% it's going to make an impact. But at the end of the day, they're going to go with what's modeled to them at home. If you don't model to them at home, doesn't matter what environment you put them in.
That's right.
It's always going to come back to what they see in their home life. I shared it. Well, I don't know what episode it was. Maybe it was marriage. Probably marriage. We are who we are by the things we've experienced and the way we were raised.
That's right.
And so if you model at home healthy, if you model healthy at home, that helps your kids be healthy, whether it be spiritually, mentally, emotionally. They are going to be the product of their environment.
That's right.
And so you cannot, so that puts a mandate on parents to live a certain way around your kids because they're going to model what they see.
That's
you
right.
cannot expect from your kids what you're not willing to do yourself. because they're always going to come back to the example that's been set. So it's
That's
very
right.
important that you model it at home. And
Mhm.
I'm not talking, you got to take the Bible and preach to your kids and beat them over the head with the scriptures or anything.
Yeah.
But it does matter what you say
Mhm.
in the home.
Yes.
It does matter what you participate in,
Yeah.
what you deem important,
Yeah.
what you say, what you listen to, what you do.
Mhm.
All of those things matter because you're modeling. And unfortunately or fortunately, when you're a parent, you don't get to choose when to turn it off and when you get to turn it on.
Mhm.
You're always on,
That's right.
always.
Yep.
You can't just say, well, today I don't feel like doing that in front of them.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean you're not going to be perfect, because there's times where, I have reacted the wrong way. We know that, don't we, Sarah?
Well, we
Yeah.
talk about our kids may be in counseling one day
Yeah.
just because of some
Yeah.
of the things that we've done, because
Yeah.
we are not perfect.
Yeah. And so there are times where I have overreacted to situations
Yeah.
because I'm an overreactor. I'm very. Why are you laughing?
I'm probably an underreactor.
Yeah. True. I'm just an emotional,
Yes, you're emotionally driven.
I'm very
Spirited.
passionate. I'm very spirited. And I got some kids in my family
Yes,
very
you do.
spirited.
Yes.
And it's like, why are y'all arguing? We're not arguing. We're having a conversation. That's not arguing. Please don't argue. We're not.
Yeah.
Just because we're very passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And so there have been times, though, that I have overreacted. And then, then I feel bad because I'm like, man, that's not the way I should react. That's not the way I should come at them like that.
Yeah.
So in order to model, what should be done, I have to go back to them
Mm-hmm.
and say, I'm sorry
I'm
for the
sorry.
way
Yeah.
I reacted. I overreacted
Yeah.
on that. I should have just taken a step back and thought about it for a little while. And I've had to go back to apologize to my
Yeah.
kids, and say, hey, that's Dad's fault.
Yeah.
That's not you. That was me.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have reacted that way.
I think that, and again, like we talked about on the marriage episode, where we balance each other out, because just like I'm saying, I probably underreact because I am more of a, let me feel the environment, let me feel which is a good thing, because then I have more opportunity to process, okay, what do I need to do? And how should I respond? But sometimes that leads to not responding at all. And so I'm glad that we are one in this, in that you help me on the other side of that. And I can help you with, sometimes it's like, okay, let's think through this, and we need to circle back around. But there's times where I've had to go and apologize to our kids because I realized that I should have spoken up, or I should have responded, like I should have intervened in certain situations, whether they're fighting with each other or maybe it is a situation that we encountered. I can't think of any, specifically right now, and I didn't. And I love that you bring that up, because I think as parents, sometimes we get like we're playing the role. And so whether it is pride or just like, I am the parent, so what I say goes, and this is, and there is no apology for the way that we forget that we are not perfect, or we want to put on this facade that we are perfect, or this impression on our kids that we are perfect, thinking that that's going to carry more weight with our kids, where at the end of the day, when we actually humble ourselves and we come back to them and say, I am so sorry that I responded that way, or that I didn't intervene in that situation like I should have, and letting them see that you're not perfect either, and coming to them and apologizing. And
that's hard.
It is very hard to do.
But that doesn't mean discipline always requires you to do that.
No.
Or you should be soft-handed too,
No,
as far as
absolutely
like,
not.
you've got indisciplined kids, man. You've got to make sure you and every kid is different with discipline.
Yes.
How that looks.
Yeah.
And how to approach it.
My parents always said that discipline looks different for each kid, but you've got to find the thing that will cause them to respond.
Yep.
And so that's looked different for all of them. We have one that is was very strong-willed, and we found that child did not like isolation. And so isolating that child was a great way. Like, she didn't need to be spanked, but just isolating them, sending them to their room or to a space by themselves for a little while would then cause a change in their behavior. They'd be ready to come back and say, I'm sorry for what I've done.
Yep.
But then that has not worked for other kids. Like, we have another child who likes to be alone.
Yep. It's like, I'll go to my room. Okay.
Okay, sure, no problem. I don't have
See you in
any
3
problem.
days.
Yeah, I don't have any problem being alone. And so that did not work for that child.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out their personalities and what is a consequence, or what is something that is actually going to cause a change in their behavior.
Yeah.
Where they're going to want to come back and say, I'm sorry, you're right, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And that looks
It's
different
hard for them
all the kids.
strong-willed children.
Yes, it is.
It is
Although
hard.
another advice,
Yeah.
more advice from my parents, because we have one that was very strong-willed, and they always told me that a strong-willed toddler leads to a wonderful teenager. And if you just stick to your guns, like stay consistent with the discipline and helping them know what your expectations are, what the rules are, and then stay consistent with it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you stay consistent with it, as they get older, it's going to make it really, really easy. And I will say that has very much been true in that child's life.
Yeah.
We just stayed consistent when they were young. And because of that, it has paid off into being a teenager.
I agree.
So,
yep. Anything else you'd like to share?
I
got a couple things too, but I want you to...
one of the big things that I've learned too is our presence in our home, not just physical presence, but being mentally, emotionally available for our kids has made a huge difference. I think that is extremely important in their lives. And I say that because we're living in a culture where we are very distracted, where kids are raising themselves in the culture we're living in. And we're not perfect at it all the time.
No.
But I think that it matters greatly in who they're becoming. I believe that when they look back over the course of their life and the way that they grew up, one of the things that I want my kids to say about me is Mom was always there. She was always available. And so creating a space specifically in your home, it's not necessarily being there at all of the events and all of the things, which we try our best to get to everything that we possibly can for our kids, but it's more being available in your home. So when you're coming home from work and, you're trying to make dinner and feed the kids and do homework and all of that stuff, I think the natural tendency in our culture is like, let me just sit down in front of the television. Let me just pull out my phone and scroll for a while because mentally, like, I got nothing. And yet that's valuable time with our kids if we can just be more intentional about being available to them and creating an environment where they feel like they can come to you. That openness to come to you for conversation. I know one of the things that we have valued and really put priority on is creating space around the table. Dinner time is, and it's hard because we do run in seasons that are very, very busy. And so every night is not around the table. We don't have everybody sitting at the table for a meal. But we try to prioritize during our busy seasons 1 to 2 nights a week where we all are all around the table together.
Yes.
And that time is the best time.
It is.
Isn't it the best
It
time?
is. Yeah.
Where everybody is like, even if they're done eating, you're still here at this table and we just have fun. We have silly conversations. We'll do highs and lows about our day. But just creating a space where our kids feel safe and they feel like they can communicate and talk with us about anything. And that's one of the things that, I feel like we have tried to create a space where there's nothing that can't come to this table. There's nothing that you're going to say that's going to shock us or that's going to necessarily take us off guard, but anything can come to the table. and making space for that so that they can be vulnerable. If they messed up in some way, like just bring it here, bring it to the table. We'll talk about it. There is nothing that you're going to do or can do that is going to remove our love from you. We love you no matter what.
Yeah.
And we've tried to create that space for them.
Well, I tell you, when you do such a good job at that, your ability to engage all the time, I have a hard time with that because, I do so much, I put so much effort out in trying to help people all the time.
Right.
It's part of what I do as a pastor. Every pastor is like that. So by the time you get home, you are mentally just whooped.
Yeah.
And you're just tired.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll have times where I'm just like, oh, I just want to veg out just for a little bit, please. I can't right now.
And it's normal to feel that way.
Oh, I'm sure we all feel that way.
Yes.
It's not just pastors,
No.
but any
and
any
it's
person.
not just you. There's times where I feel that way too. Yeah.
And then I'll hear, and then, so they'll kind of come downstairs. We're kind of together, and Sarah will be like, Mark. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Here we go. What would you speak to that? Just what you've learned through that.
Well, it makes a world of difference because being in the same room together does not mean you're all together.
That's right.
And that's the biggest issue we have now is we just think that if we're in the same room together, we're together, and we're not together. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of causes in that, particularly social media has caused a lot of distraction. And just media in general, kids on their phones all the time, parents on their phones all the time, and it's just completely shut off all forms of communication.
Yeah.
And you got to find a way around that. You've got to find limits to that. I mean, I know some people have, hey, like we're going 24 hours without our phone. Everybody puts their phone in the bin, and we're not going to be on our phones. Nobody. Or we're gonna spend. There's one night a week where we put our phones up and we're together, and they've done it game night, So there's ways to be creative around that to get rid of the to get rid of the distractions. Because out of that comes conversation, and conversation comes connection, and that's where you really engage with your kids.
Yeah.
Now, some of what we're talking about also comes from the way we were raised. Mm-hmm. And that is a huge component of this. I talked last episode about family origin and counseling and figuring out who you are. And that plays a huge part in how we parent. Sometimes what was modeled to us, we then model to our kids. We pass it down to them unless the cycle is broken. And you have to get to a point, if your upbringing wasn't good, if you didn't have that modeled to you, if your dad wasn't around or your mom wasn't around, you don't know how to be present, you don't know how to be a dad, then you've got to seek out sources in which to help you break the mold of what was modeled to you and set forth something different to your kids.
Right.
Because if not, what was learned to you is going to be passed to them. If your dad was a yeller, you're going to be a yeller. If your mom was a yeller, you're going to be a yeller. If they avoided, you're going to avoid. If they ignored, you're going to ignore.
Yeah.
And so you've got to begin to have a sense of self-awareness of what I came from and know I don't want that passed down to my kids, or or it's going to be a cycle. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a cycle that's passed to them. Same thing with addiction. If addiction was modeled to you and you came from that environment and you got that and you are addicted, if it isn't broken, it's going to be passed down to your kids. They're going to do what's modeled.
Right.
So I think there's a sense of self-awareness to be able to break those cycles and then start new ones.
Yeah, what a beautiful thing that you don't have to do.
You don't have to do what was passed down to you. There's always, and the Lord can help with that.
Yes, and I also, just another thing to go ahead and reach out to somebody that you are like, I'm curious about their family dynamic, the way that they're raising their kids, or they have amazing kids.
Yep.
Can we come hang out with you and see how you do this? Just be amongst your family. And, we've done that for some couples in our lives too, just included them in our family dynamic so that they can see and take what they want to take from the way that we do things. Yeah. And there's so many people that are just doing such a great job with their family unit and honoring the Lord with it. And that would love to invest time into you, whether you're thinking about having a family, you're a young couple, or if you even have a young family and you see somebody that's a little bit further down the line, down the journey than you, that you can lean or learn and glean from them and their family and their experience. So,
I also want to say, when you talked about creating spaces where your kids are free to come talk to you, I'm reminded of a story in Luke chapter 15. Many of you,
you go preach to us.
I'm
Come on,
going
let's
to
go.
Luke chapter 15, starting in verse 11. It's a story of the prodigal son and of the lost son. And some of us know the story, but this kind of environment that we want to create is very similar to what the father did to the son.
That's right.
So you can find the story, Luke chapter 15. I know we've all heard it, but I'm going to read it again. Starting at verse 11, Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided the property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to the fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but not one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father." This is the part that I love. "But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. And he ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servant, 'Quick, bring the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate." So the reason why I share this story is, you see how the son comes to the father, asks for the share of inheritance, which is really like saying, I want what you have, but I don't want you. I hate you. And he's gone off to a distant land, and there are many parents who can attest to this, because they've got kids that feels like they've gone off to a place of wild living. You know, they've done all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's caused separation between parent and child. And finally, one day, in a desperate time of need, when it was all gone, they said, man, I need to go back to my father. And no, excuse me. What you saw, what I really want you to see, and I feel like I've called it front porch parenting, is that when he came back, the Bible doesn't say the father was on the front porch, but he was waiting for him. He was looking up. He saw him coming in a distance. That's right. So I have this vision of the father being out on the front porch. You know, the light is on, and he's waiting just for one day for his son to come home. The lights weren't turned off. He wasn't inside. He was waiting and watching for the opportunity for his son to come back. And when he came back, he didn't tell his son, like, you get yourself together and you can be my son again, or you're going to work this off. Right. You know, no, he said, come on in. And all those signs, the ring, the robe, and the feast, were signs that he's still his son. He's welcome back into the family. Yeah. And I think a lot of what we try to instill in our kids is that front porch parenting. Like, no matter what you have done and how crazy it has gotten, we want to be front porch parents to say, you can always come back home. That's right. You can always bring it to us. We can always talk about it. There's nothing you can ever do that would ever keep me from not loving you. Yeah. And because when they get to a place when they're in a time of need, and when they've squandered everything and when they have screwed up and wandered off to a distant land, that if they ever come to their senses, they can know, you know what, I can go back to mom and dad.
Yep.
And I know they're going to welcome me with wide open arms.
That's right.
And it's there, you wait on them and say, no matter what you do, you're still my son. You're still my daughter. And that is instilled into them at an early age, that front porch parenting. Like, yes, there's got to be some tough love involved. But I'm never going to stop loving you.
There are times where you have to set up boundaries because they have broken your trust in certain areas. So you're not saying that there aren't repercussions for their actions or there aren't boundaries that are put in place because they've broken trust. But at the end of the day, like they're always welcome to come home. And, we want to represent the love of Jesus well to our kids.
And that's really what this is.
And that's what it is. There is nothing that can separate us from the love of Jesus. And so as parents, what better way to show them the love of Jesus than to actually live that out in our lives with the way that we raise them as well. So that's good stuff. I will add to that. We can't record this episode without saying how vital prayer is to your parenting journey. I am so encouraged that in times of hopelessness or when I don't know what to do as a parent, the opportunity and the tool and the gift of prayer to go to places and spaces where I cannot go has made all the difference. Because I think sometimes I feel like I've got to fix it. That's just my natural tendency. As a parent, I want to fix it. I want to protect them. I want to keep them from messing up, in certain times, in certain areas, and protect them from failing. I want to protect them from getting hurt, or protect them from any repercussions that they might face. And prayer has become so vital in my life and in my journey in just surrendering our kids constantly. Sometimes it's not just daily, it's hourly to the Lord, and just say, God, I need you to give me what I need to help them.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm surrendering their lives to you. They are yours. They're not mine. They're yours. Mark and I are just stewards of them. And so, and prayer goes, God can go to the spaces and places that we cannot go. And I trust that he, even when I don't know where they are, like mentally, or sometimes we don't know where our kids are physically. Life 360 does help with that a lot. But, there's times where it's like, I don't know where my kid is right now. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they're doing. And just releasing that to the Lord and trusting that he's got them, that he's writing their story, and that he can intervene in their lives and speak to them through anyone, through any means. And it's just been such a huge part of my life of just releasing that control.
You have to.
And trusting God with their lives.
And it's so hard.
It is so hard.
Because I know a lot of parents, in the pastoral counseling stuff I've done, and concerns about kids are like, what did I do wrong? Like, I tried to do everything right. And they live with a sense of like blame and shame that I did something wrong in my parenting. Look, I know perfect parents, great parents.
I don't know. Is there any perfect
No,
parents?
but I know there's some parents that have given their kids the world and raised them in a Christian home. And have modeled great marriages and have treated them well, and their kids is crazy. And they're like, what did I do wrong? Like, you didn't do anything wrong. And maybe that's for somebody today that feels that way. You didn't do anything wrong. Because at the end of the day, the human condition lives inside the heart of us all. We want to keep our kids from sin or messing up, but they're going to deal with it just like you did. They got their own faith journey they got to walk through. And you can provide perfect environments, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to deal with the core sin inside the heart of humanity. And part of that is pain and grief and mistakes and screwing up. And so we can't help some of those things. When we talk, it's about trying to do everything we can to instill in them. But at the end of the day, their walk with God, and you got to be able to release that and know that, man, I can't, God, they're in God's grip. They're in God's hands.
Yeah.
And I have to trust that the Lord knows what he's doing, because I've done everything I possibly
Yeah.
could do. And even if we did mess up, God can redeem those things.
Yep.
God can redeem the time.
That's right.
And so I have to release it to him and know that God's is writing their story. He's going to help them.
Yep.
And then, because you've seen the reverse of that, you see some kids come from terrible environments, yet they love the Lord. It's like, what in the world is going on? Because
so
ultimately,
there's no right recipe.
no.
There is no right manual for any of this.
So some of it is the grace of God, and you've got to release it and say, God, they're in your hands. I need your help to do the best that I can do, but ultimately I just pray for them, their souls, to serve you. And prayer is the only antidote to a lot of it.
That's so good.
And some of it is too, just because you're in a rough season with your kids does not mean that's the final story.
That's exactly right.
You can't see what God's going to do in later years,
And
and
so
sometimes
many
it's even after the parent is even passed.
Yeah.
That some of the kids come to their senses.
That's right. That's right.
And say, man, I need to get back to what mom and dad instilled in me when I was little and when they took me to church and like the things of the Lord. And it's like, oh man, that's
and ultimately, what does the word say? That the work that God has begun in us, he will bring to completion.
Yeah.
And we have to trust God in that.
Yep.
Look, Lord, I've done everything that I can do and knew to do in their lives. I've taught them. I've led by example. I've prayed for them. I've prayed with them. This is the way that I've raised them. And now I just have to release it to you and trust that the work that you began in their lives, you are going to bring it to completion. Yeah. And, and the hard part too, I think sometimes, is wrapping your brain around, it's so heart-wrenching when your kid does mess up, or they make a mistake, or they make a wrong choice and they have to live with the consequences. And then you feel as a parent the weight of all of that. But at the same time, what I'm learning is that the opportunity for failure is such a great lesson in their lives. Like, just the way that our kids have learned so many valuable lessons through the hardship, through the difficulty, through their failures, more so than they have just smooth sailing in their lives too. And so releasing that to the Lord as well, and just trusting, okay, God, things don't look great right now, but believing that he's going to work everything out for their good and for your glory in their lives.
And I think they also lean into your optimism and your faith in moments of failure.
That's right.
How you react to it as well.
Yep.
Do you play into it, or do you say, God's got this, keep pushing through, keep persevering? It's okay. Yep. It's a setback. But the setback is the setup for the comeback.
That's right.
And so I think they play into that. They lean into how you react as well.
Yeah.
In times of failure.
Yep.
So
that's good. Yeah. The only other thing I had written down was I just challenge parents to set goals in their kids' lives. I know it's so hard. And I think even as parents of 5 kids, like, life will get away from us if we're not careful. And so take time to sit down with your spouse, or if you are a single parent, just to sit down and start, okay, Lord, what have you placed inside of my kid? What their personality? What are some of the giftings that you even just have brought to my gifts and talents and abilities that you've brought to my attention that I can help steward and can help grow in their lives? What are the ways? I mean, every year we try to evaluate, okay, in what ways do our kids need to grow? What are the areas of their lives that they need to grow in this year? Do they need more confidence in this area? Do they need to be pushed a little bit more in this area because they are more shy, or they're a little bit more timid about certain things? Maybe it is having conversations with adults, or maybe it is academically. Maybe it is in developing a skill or gift or talent in their lives. But looking at those things and evaluate, because life will pass us by. Like these kids will be out of our house before we know it.
Yep.
And so taking time every year, maybe it is more frequently than that, but just to kind of figure out, okay, what are the goals that we can set for our kids this year to help them grow and to develop into eventually the adults that they are going to become.
Yeah.
And so making priorities
Intentionality.
and being intentional on and helping them grow as well. So
Yeah.
in every aspect of their lives. So
There's
I just
so much
encourage that.
more I want to say.
I know.
You know, this podcast would be 3 hours long. So maybe we need to do like a follow-up podcast at the very end of all of our episodes, and from each category we're going to talk about, because one of the things that I want to talk about is how we navigate social media with the kids. And we could be here for another hour
Yeah.
talking about that. So maybe we need to circle back to that.
I think that would be really good.
Yeah.
I think that would help people.
Yeah.
And with the culture we live in, and I get that question a lot. Like, how do you handle that with your kids? We don't have the right answer necessarily, but we can, based on our own convictions, we can kind of share what that looks like.
We're
in
going
our
to save
lives.
that for next time now.
Okay, that sounds good.
Does that sound good to you?
Sounds good to
All
me.
right. I'm going to pray us out. We hope that once again, disclaimer, we don't have all the answers.
That's right.
So, as some say, eat the fish, leave the bones.
That's
you
right.
know,
And what works for us may not work for you.
Exactly.
So you've got to. Hopefully, this just gets your mind thinking about some of these things, and will help you along your journey with your kids.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let me pray.
Okay.
Father, thank you for this time. Talking about parenting. Kids are a gift from God. They're a gift from you. Help us steward it well. Lord, Holy Spirit, I pray for any person, any parent that is watching this and they feel like they've failed. They feel like they've not done what they need to do. Help them, God, for them to understand that no matter how far it seems gone, it's never final, that there's always a way back. There's always a way to get better. There's always a way to mend relationships, build bridges again, to help kids from this point moving forward. Encourage their hearts. Help us, God, all to give ourselves a little bit of grace in our parenting too, that we're not doing as bad as what we think we are sometimes. And help us to just model what needs to be done in front of our kids, that what they see would last years to come. It would be the legacy that we leave to them, what we have modeled before them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.